Hey there, ladies from Chicago Title. Super excited to have you guys join me on the show.
Hi.
Yay! So I am so excited to talk to you gals. You know, we are always wanting to bring good content to the people of Bakersfield and Kern County because, I mean, real estate for us is every day, but for them, it's a big deal. For consumers, it's a really big deal. So I wanted to talk about escrow today and really delve into it from a consumer perspective. Again, we do it every day, but then when buyers and sellers get into escrow, they're like, what is this? What does this mean? No matter how many times they do it, the same questions come up. So that's what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. But before we start that, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm AIDA Barajas. I've been in Bakersfield for about 10 years now. I moved down here from the Bay Area. I lived in the Bay Area about 10 years right after high school. I ended up there from the Central Coast. I was born in Santa Maria, raised in Napomo, then I moved to the Bay, and now I'm here.
And you moved to Bakersfield. Beautiful, but hot Bakersfield.
Very hot. And I'm going into my 17th year in the business. So that means I love it and I haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Nice.
And what about you?
I'm HALIE EPPS. I have been here at Chicago for a month now. I am brand new to the escrow side, so I love these kinds of things where I get to sit in and learn as well from the ones that have been here forever, you know. I started with a real estate background. I dabbled in that for a little while, so I understand the consumers not really knowing what the heck is escrow part, you know. So I love this whole topic because I really have firsthand experience on it as well. And I've lived in Bakersfield my whole life, so born and raised. I don't have a crazy background.
So funny thing is, I always say that when people ask me where I'm from Chicago, but my husband always says, you have been in Bakersfield since you were 6. You're pretty much a native.
Yeah.
So kind of funny there.
Your grandfather did.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm a Bakersfieldian. So anyway, that's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing that good background with us. It's always nice to know, who the heck am I talking to? And why should I believe what they're saying, right? So I'm sure the audience appreciates that. So let's talk about what the heck is escrow? What is that? What is escrow?
So what is escrow?
Yeah.
We're, in a nutshell, the gatekeepers of a transaction. Whether you're the seller or you're the buyer, or you're the real estate agent or the mortgage broker, we are the middle person. The term you hear often out on the street is that we're the mutual third party and we hold funds and then we get everybody paid out at the end of the transaction. But there's a lot more to that than just handing out checks to everybody once we close our transaction. So here locally, mostly everybody is escrow and title, which means that we do the escrow and we also issue out the title insurance for a transaction. Okay. There are some areas in the state where it's an escrow only, which means that it's an independent escrow company and then they hire a title company. But working with us, it's a good thing to know that we are a Fortune 500 company, which means that we have a backup in case something happens throughout the transaction or after the transaction. So that's a good thing for the consumer to know. They always want to make sure that they're working with a company that has a financial backing, because if you ever need to submit a claim on your policy, you want to make sure that they are still going to be in business.
Very
important.
Yeah. Especially, you know, not so much just in recent years in Kern County, but really you see that a lot in like greater Los Angeles area, things like that. So that's good information. So you mentioned title. Touch on that a bit. You said, you know, we do both title and escrow. So you threw that in. What does that mean? What's title?
Title. So when you open your escrow, we get a copy of your purchase contract from the real estate agent. So then we go ahead and we open the escrow. We send that information off to our title department, which then does a search of the property that's being sold. It usually takes about 3 days for them to issue out what's called a preliminary title report, which is just what it says. It's a preliminary report of what is against that property. So it's going to give you your owner's name, a legal description, property tax information, if there's any mortgages or liens against the property. And that's what the title department does.
So very important for a consumer, again, because so years ago, now this is many, many years ago before any of us, where people, and I guess it still happens periodically, where you could transfer title and have an issue with that on the title. So is that to protect the consumer?
Yes, I've dealt with many situations where mom bought the home and then mom says, I don't want it anymore. I'm going to transfer title to my daughter, Haley. So then they don't want to deal with the whole title insurance or escrow side of it because they want to save money. So then mom goes and prepares an accommodation deed and gets it recorded under Haley's name. Haley is not now the owner of record on that home, but she doesn't have title insurance. So then Haley goes to sell that property. And what happens? When that title report comes out, they're possibly going to ask for an uninsured deed affidavit from mom because the title wants to verify that it was not a fraudulent deed. And two, if mom has, I don't know, IRS liens, child support liens, guess what? Haley has to deal with them.
Oh my goodness.
Because there was no title or anything ran on that prior owner, which is mom.
So to make sure I understand, if this, so in the case of Haley, how cool, mom just says, here's this house for you. That seems awesome in theory. So what happens is when Haley goes to sell the house and there's no title insurance, any liens that were there from mom, now Haley's responsible for taking care of?
Yep.
Oh, that doesn't seem like such a blessing.
So at first, it might seem like you're saving money, but at the end of the day, you're potentially going to come up with more than what it was worth.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, that makes sense. So something you said earlier, you talked about mutual party. So do you guys pick a side? Do you have like, is the seller your side or the buyer? Maybe the real estate agent?
So our job is to be mutual. We're the person in the middle. So if seller is saying, no, I'm not going to give you a credit for a repair, and the buyer is saying, well, I want you to give it to me, then we have to wait until both parties come to an agreement so we can proceed. Our job is to follow mutual instructions from all parties before we can proceed with the closing.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's nice for buyers and sellers to know that there's somebody that's a neutral party to this, as it were. Very cool. Okay, so let's talk about, touching on the idea of title insurance and so forth. We really talked about some of the benefits and why it's important. Is there anything else you want to add to that of why the heck is escrow even more important? To me, the most important is those doggone liens. I don't want to take on mom or grandma's liens, but are there other important benefits? Yes.
When you're purchasing, you don't want to be giving your funds out directly to the seller. So it's very important because we protect the money that comes in, and it's not going to go out without the proper authorization. So for example, if you go through the proper channels and you have a contract and you want to give the money to the seller, what guarantee do you have that that seller is going to honor what you gave them outside of escrow? None.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a very good example for me.
Yeah, that's another important thing, right? You think, okay, sellers agreed to sell me this house. Let me just write them a check. So incredible stuff. So what's the cost? We all want to know, how much is all this going to cost? Great service, happy to have it as a part of the contract, but what do buyers and sellers pay? What do they pay for?
So for us, we are governed by the insurance commissioner, so all of our rates are filed. So we cannot charge one customer one fee and the other waive, because we are filed with the insurance commissioner. Okay. And our rates are posted online and they are based on the sales price.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. That's good. So who pays for it?
In Kern County, and this varies throughout the state, we have customary closing costs. In Kern County, it is customary for seller and buyer to split the escrow fee. seller pays for their notary, buyer pays for their notary. Owner's title policy of insurance is a seller pay. Transfer tax. It just all varies on your county where you're purchasing or selling a home. Okay. And we do have a list that Haley can probably send over to you if you like.
Okay, so for the consumers, what we'll do if that's public information, we'll just make sure they get that as well, and we'll put that up so they can see that.
Okay.
Alrighty. So then, to make sure I understand for the consumers, those costs are customary to area. Of course, Kern County, we have our customary way we're doing it. But at the end of the day, are they pretty much negotiable? Is that
yes. Okay. They are. It's customary for the county, but it is a negotiable item between parties if they're trying to make a deal work.
I personally have had an escrow when I was an agent on that side, where part of the negotiation was for the seller to pay for the escrow fee in full, not 50-50 split. And you have to write that into the purchase agreement so the escrow is notified.
Yeah, no, again, these are fun conversations, right? Because it's, this is the biggest purchase people make, if you think about it. No matter what your price range is, your first time home buyer of the luxury market, it's the highest thing you pretty much spend. So all of these little details are things that everybody wants to know when you get involved, right? Once they start coming to your office, they're like, wait, they're looking at maybe an estimated net sheet saying, where the heck are all these fees coming from? So that's good information. Okay, so the other thing you mentioned that I want to delve into, you talked about an owner's title policy. What the heck is that?
So our job when we close escrow is to provide an owner's policy of title insurance to that buyer. That policy of title insurance, it's not like your fire insurance or flood insurance where you renew every year. For as long as you're the owner of that property, that policy of title insurance will protect you as the owner. So to give you an example and so you understand what it could potentially do for you or how it can be beneficial. So I purchased a property and I just closed escrow. Chicago Title is going to send me my owner's policy of title insurance. So that's my guarantee. That's my insurance that I have obtained the property free and clear of any liens, judgments against a prior owner, and that everything was done correctly. Why do you want that? Say 2 months from now or a year from now, I go and I'm like, I want to sell my home, and a lien pops up that belongs to the prior owner. Who's going to cover me? Chicago Title.
So it's so funny as we're talking about these things, it's like a puzzle. Each piece fits together. If we go back to the example with Haley getting her mother's house, that title insurance policy is what would have covered her.
Correct.
Gotcha. And then another connecting piece is that you brought in earlier was talking about a company, that Chicago Title is a Fortune 500 company. So the backing is there. You want to make sure that if you own that home for 25 years, people still do that you're covered. That's a big deal. Now, I always like stories. Have you ever had a situation in the 17 years that you've been doing this where you've seen that, where someone actually had to use their title insurance?
I have. We've had situations where I had an escrow and the company that closed the transaction, and we're all not perfect, but there was an error on the legal description, and the seller was in a bank, so it was a bank-owned property, and it was sold to the person that opened escrow with us, and the county wasn't passing title because there was an error on that legal description. So what we did to save some time was we opened title with the company the last insured that particular transaction because they were going to be rectifying that error.
Oh, that makes good sense. So not only are you taking care of the customer, you're also looking at ways that are saving them. I mean, you guys potentially could have opened it with yourselves, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here. had you opened it with yourselves, maybe that other piece wouldn't have been completely cleared.
Correct.
Potentially. Yeah, that's good stuff. Again, so this is looking out for the customer 25, 35 years from now. Now, in California, a lot of people don't stay in their house for 25 years. But even 5 years, you don't want those things to happen. So for the audience's sake, I threw that one out to you, just unbeknownst to you. I like that. Okay, so the you're telling these stories are fabulous. What's your favorite part about Escrow? What's you love your job. You've done it for 17 years. There's got to be a reason you love it. Why do you keep coming in day out? As a real estate agent, I know the things that go on behind the scenes, and we could all prematurely gray by these fun experiences. So what keeps you coming back?
Seeing our customers be happy when they receive keys or when they're being told that they're officially the owner of a home. Yeah. Or seeing sellers being so happy that they get to move up or that they're downgrading because they're retiring. We also unfortunately have sad situations, but we can at least make it a little bit happier throughout the process to make them feel a little better. Yeah. But mostly it's that feeling you get when you say you've closed, we made it, and you got to the end, and you know that you're going to have a group of people that are going to be just so excited. Because again, like you said earlier, purchasing a home is the biggest financial decision. And to me, what it means is someone fulfilling their American dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So Haley, do you have anything you want to add to this? Just from your previous experience and your time with Chicago Title, and again, it's so awesome. I love having these conversations because it shows the community that on the other side of this transaction, we're all humans, right? We've all bought houses, we've sold houses, and have been in sad situations, great situations around the entire industry. And so it's always wonderful, again, to show that. So without further ado, anything else you want to add to this?
Yeah, so I've obviously been here for a very brief time, and in that time I've already fallen in love with this side. I went from, your side to being in front of the client all the time and showing them the houses and having that relationship, to now this side where I actually get to see the back end and how hard they're working to actually close that deal. And then at the same time, I have to try to explain that to, I'm younger, so I have to explain what I do now to my friends. They all know, oh, you're a real estate agent, you sold full houses. Well, now you're an escrow. What the heck is that? So yeah, so now I get to try to find fun ways to tell them what I do. And I think the favorite way I learned from another sales executive was, it's kind of like the pink slip to your car. When you get that, you are now the owner of that car, and somebody, the car lot gave that to you, right? The car salesman. So now it's kind of like that on this side. Like what we're doing is we're giving you a free and clear house, right? And in the middle of escrow, they're going from paying off the liens, the judgments, anything against that house. We're clearing that all out of the table so that now you can have that fresh, new, shiny house. It's transferring that title to you free and clear of anything. And now you are a homeowner and don't have to worry about those things, anything popping up. And I think that's my favorite part about knowing this side, and all the steps that they took as the escrow officer to get you to that point. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, all of us in this industry will say that there's not a deal that doesn't close, that you truly just feel this level of pure excitement because you know what it's like. So most people know what it's like to buy a car. And for those of us that have purchased homes throughout our lives, it's nothing like it being your own house. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have a mortgage on it. Yeah. You still owe a little bit of money on it. But it's nothing like walking into that space and saying, this is mine, and I can move furniture wherever I want. I can paint the walls if I want. I can change the exterior. But in order to do that, we have to go through all of these preliminary steps beforehand. So Ladies, I cannot thank you enough for spending this time with me. You guys are awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I am sure folks are super excited. We'll make sure that we give them that information. Haley will touch base on getting those prices for people so they can see. Again, this is about just educating our community so that we're a smarter, well-informed Kern County so we make really good decisions. So thanks again. I hope you guys have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you.